Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to Being on Stage, the only podcast that gives you motivation, inspiration, and confidence to be better on stage. No matter how you entertain, sing, dance, band, comedian, public speaking, MC, drag, burlesque, performance art, or street performer, this is the show for you. Hey, rock stars, Reggie Dawson, your host of the show. Welcome back once again to the Being on Stage podcast. We are day 5 of podcast every day, July 2019. Whoop, whoop. So I'm late to the game today, like entirely late, and I have a list, if you'd like it, a list of excuses. Number one being, I live on the bottom floor of a 2-story apartment, and the top floor houses a 17-year-old boy and his mother, who are in a band. And a 17-year-old boy and his friends like to listen to loud music while it sounds like they're wrestling the couch or each other or something. It literally sounds like they got a bunch of pogo sticks and they're just jumping up and down upstairs. And as you could probably imagine, a little hard to record something when you have a bunch of banging going on upstairs and loud music and yelling, and it sounds like, I don't know, Rob Zombie started Irish step dancing or something is kind of what it sounded like today. And it's been driving me nuts all day. Like, oh my God, I've got to get to this podcast. I got to do it every single day. And, you know, at one point I'm just like, oh my God, it's Friday. Me and my wife, we normally have a couple of drinks on Friday nights. You know, we hang out, we spend time together. This week, my daughter's at camp. So it's like completely alone Friday night. She's not even in the other room. So we're enjoying ourselves. Needless to say, this is the first podcast that I'm recording after I've had my glass of wine. So many more apologies for any weird comments or slurred words or anything like that. I'm not drunk, but it is one of those things where, like, you can feel that you've had alcohol. So add that into the mix of my day, and it's 11:19 at night. I am 3 minutes-ish into the podcast, and that's actually what I'm talking about is, you know, sometimes things happen, and it is not your fault. Most of the time, it's your fault. Most of the time, you know, when it comes to procrastination, putting things off, I'll do it later, I don't need to get up right now, all those things that ultimately puts off what it is that you need to do. Because listen, whether you have a performance coming up next week, 2 weeks from now, a month from now, 6 months from now, or if you haven't even set foot on stage yet, there is always something that needs to be done. Whether it's rehearse, learn something new, keep working on something new, you know, honing in on your talent, as a lot of people like to call it. Maybe you're making an outfit, maybe you're choreographing something, you're tuning a new instrument, you're whatever it is you're doing. There's always something to be done for every show. So most of the time when things get put off and not done every day, most of the time it's your fault. I'm going to be honest with you. 99% of the time it's your fault. But there is going to be that 1% of the time where it is totally outside of your control. That was my day today. Loud banging, tons of noises upstairs, dogs barking, people going in and out. That's not my fault. I record audio. My microphone's good, but it ain't that good, if you know what I mean. It's not going to edit out all those extra sounds of, you know, dancing teenagers or whatever. So, one of the things I want to point out is, one, that, you know, there's always something to be done. 2, you kind of have to accept the fact that sometimes things are going to happen. And it could be little things such as, you know, I can't record an audio while there's banging upstairs. I got other stuff done. You can always get other stuff done. There are going to be situations in which you absolutely cannot get something done. God forbid someone's in the hospital, you got to take care of something. Maybe you have a court appearance, things like this. Maybe you were like deathly ill and literally can't roll out of bed. Things like that are going to happen. You have to be okay with that. You have to allow yourself to kind of take that hit, if you will. You have to allow yourself to move past that. The important thing is, and this is where I think a lot of us struggle, is when we have one day that kind of things went off. Woo! Things went off. They didn't happen the way they were supposed to do. You have one day like that. The next day, it's crucial to get yourself back on track. 100%, you have to get back on track to rehearsing, perfecting, honing, trying something new, posting stuff, making videos, recording yourself. List goes on and on and on of the things you could do. You could make a social media post. You could get a video ready for social media. You could just rehearse. You could start learning something new. You could watch videos to learn something new. The list just goes on and on and on of the things that you could get done. The difficult thing here is to not get trapped in that zone of procrastination, I guess. It's so easy to get stuck there when it's, you have something that happened where it's not your fault. You couldn't get it done. You didn't accomplish what you needed to accomplish for that day or that week. It is so easy to continue to blame those same reasons. So the first time, not your fault. If you allow that to continue to be your excuse for not getting things done, then it becomes your fault. That's where the change is needed, is when you fall down off the horse, how long are you waiting before you're getting back on it? How long are you going to just let things sit idle? We've all been there. I've been there. I'm there today, but by God, I'm going to get this podcast done and up by midnight so that I have my July 5th podcast. I mean, I'm one ahead. I could easily make that excuse to say, well, on July 2nd, I did 2 podcasts, so technically it's the 5th of July. I've done 5 podcasts. I can skip today. But you know what? I said the same thing yesterday, and I turned around and did a podcast. The idea here, and the focus of this episode, is yes, sometimes things are going to happen, and it's totally outside of your control, and it's going to shatter your goal for the day. Maybe even the week. I know for me, when my mother goes into the hospital, which, thank God she hasn't been in the hospital in a very, very long time. Most of the time when my mother goes in the hospital, she's in there for 3, 4, 5 days. She's a heart patient. So, they always keep her for observation. And it throws off my whole week. It throws off my entire life for the week because I'm running back and forth to the hospital. I'm bringing her what she needs. I'm taking care of her dog and she's got a sugar glider. If you don't know what these are, it's like a small flying squirrel. Look it up. They're cute as hell. And then on top of that, I got my family and my job and my dogs and my kid and my wife and all that stuff. And when these things happen, it does throw off your day. It throws off your week. Sometimes, God forbid, it throws off your month because it's really hard to recover from a month, taking a month off. But you have to recover. You have to take that step to get back to it. It's one of the hardest steps you're going to take because the longer you wait to get back to it, the harder it's going to be to get back to it. The best scenario is accept the fact that day 1 was not your fault. Intentionally start day 2 knowing that you're back on track. Knowing that you're going to do a post, you're going to do a video, you're going to do a rehearsal, you're going to learn something, you're going to, for me, record a podcast. You have to get back to it immediately after falling off that wagon or whatever. So, moral of today's episode, and I'm going to wrap this up because it takes me about 15 minutes to upload, and I am determined to get this up by midnight so that I have a July 5th. Man, I already said that. The moral of the podcast is, sometimes it's not your fault until it is. So if you're struggling getting back to it and you need someone to talk to, someone to just kind of like kick you in the pants maybe, motivate you, encourage you, I'm here for you. You can actually jump on my calendar at beingonstage.com/calendar. And I'd love to talk to you. You pick a date and a time, and I call you, and that's really it. So, as always, appreciate you sticking it out to the end. Oh, I keep forgetting to put this in the podcast. There's a new giveaway on my website, beingonstage.com. You can put in your name and email, be re-added to my list, and I'll send you 10 ways to get paid for performing that you can probably make your first, pay within a month or so. So that's really interesting. I'm going to talk more about that probably tomorrow or the next day or the day after that. As always, guys, thanks for tuning in and keep on shining.